Okay, Kitty Pies, it's July 11th, 2025, and this is another update on the 60 bug restoration. Uh, Finally, got the pan done. I started on this in late February of this year. Um, I had a lot of work to do on it, so February, probably about 5 months to get this done, completed. I had the transmission sent out, rebuilt, and I had the engine sent out and rebuilt. Although those two I had done. So I could have done it faster, but I work full time, so I kind of took my time on this. It's been a while since I worked on one of these. So you can see here, last update, I didn't have the gaskets on here. I got those installed for the pan gasket. Okay, I'll show you how I do that in a minute. And I also ran the brake lines, got the brake system hooked up. I ran stainless steel 304 grade lines on this. I got those from CIP1. I'm running the original rubber hoses on it for now, original brakes. So all I have to do now is fill the transmission with transmission oil. I have to grease the front end and the spindle area, kingpins, I gotta grease those. The steering box already has grease in it. I have to adjust everything, hook up the choke cable, the throttle cable to the carburetor, and all I have to do then is just drop the insulation on the floor. I'm gonna go with what Volkswagen would have done. I initially bought the Wolfsburg West ones. They're flat, but I bought from Chris Malone his set floor mat insulation pads, and they kind of look like the original here. They have the bumps in it, so I'm gonna go with his there, and I'm gonna go with his engine compartment tar boards. They look pretty good too. Well, that stuff isn't cheap, I tell you. You think it would be, but it isn't. I'm not going to go with Dynamat or anything. I'm not a fan of that stuff. I'm just not. So you can see here, I ran the lines. Running these lines, it's been a while since I bent brake lines, so it took me a little while to get into rhythm. But once I started getting a feel of it, I started going pretty good. I'll show you over here. Bought everything new for it. This line was a little tricky here, but I'll tell you, I'll show you the hardest line here. This line, you have to really think about here and how you're gonna run that. You gotta bend most of that by hand. Trying to straighten out that line after it comes bent in the kit, it's kind of tricky too. Now this here, I kind of made a mistake. I ran this line right here. I should have ran this line in through here, snaked it behind the brake, and ran it down here, but it's gonna stay this way for now. It's not interfering with anything. It's not gonna touch anything, so I'm happy with that, because my foot's gonna sit up here when I'm hitting the gas pedal anyways. Those grommets in there for the brake line are really hard to get in there. You have to really work them. You can see here, I cut this short, so I had to make another one, and I'll urethane those seals a little bit there. I messed up there a little bit, and I messed up in the back corner there a little bit. This is the German rubber kit from CIP1. Little upset about that because they didn't give me enough in here. I was about 1.5 feet, 2 feet short on that pan gasket. So I had an extra pan gasket here. I just used this here. Now the hardest line on the whole brakes it up here was this one right here, the first one. I don't know why they sent that so long. It should be a lot shorter than that. So you can see how I did it there. I ran all stainless clips to hold the these in here. That's another thing. They sell them in kits of 4. You actually need 6 of those. Just another tip too. Because you have, see this one here, and then that one there. So you actually need 6 of those. This is where I ran short. I had to make this here. And it was a little short here too, so I had to mess with that. I'll show you how I did that. This is a punch kit I got from Amazon, on Amazon. This is a really nice kit because it has all different shapes to it. You can see here all these different shapes. You got a half moons, teardrop. You got different oval shapes, square shapes. Okay, the one I found out I used the most were just the round ones. You can see here, they have nice cutters on the end. They cut really nice. They went right through the rubber with no problem. That whole kit there was, I think, like 20 bucks or something like that. So there's all different shapes and sizes you can use. And then also, Volkswagen used nails. I use these Phillips head self-tappers. Got them in black. I didn't want the chrome ones. So you could either drill an 1/8 inch hole or just run these through. It'll drill its own hole with the drill bit on the end there. And you can see here how the holes look nice and clean. How it cuts the hole nice and clean, and how these are nice to hold it in place. Also, running the brake lines. These are the 3 tubing benders I use. This is an old school one I had from years ago. This is kind of tricky to use. I used it in a couple spots. This one, I know on Slade loves this one. Like I did what he said. I ground down the edge there. It does leave a mark in the line. I worked that a little bit, so it didn't do that. These are okay. I had a hard time with these a little bit. The one I had most success with was this one here. Comes with 2 different wheels, 4 different sizes. I used the 3/16 the most. That's where I got most of my bends. Once you get a feel for this, bending the lines got a lot easier. So, and then also, when you're putting a pan gasket in, I use scissors a lot to cut the angles. Or when you're doing a pan, just buy a whole box of these razor blades, because you're only going to get one cut with these before they dull out. I buy a whole sleeve of them. And also, when you're doing a pan, these are wave washers, stainless wave washers I got off of Amazon. Buy a whole kit, because you're going to go through a lot of these too. Volkswagen used wave washers instead of the lock washers that Americans use. That was relatively cheap, like 16 bucks for that whole thing. And they're in stainless, so they'll never rust. Just some tips on how I got all these things done here. You can see there how clean that hole looks with those press punches I got there from Amazon. So everything's looking really, really nice. Now also, I'll go through the oils I'm going to use. This is the oil I'm going to put in the gear transmission. Transmission builder told me to use GL4. Don't use GL5, or don't use GL4N5. Just use old school GL4 for it. 80-90. Also, when you're doing a pan, there's a lot of grease on everything. Buy a couple boxes of these gloves. Buy a couple boxes of the rags, because you're going to go through them. You're going to go through a lot of them. You're going to go through a lot of grease. Get a whole bucket of wheel bearing grease, because you're going to fill up those front drums, the wheel bearings. This is what I'm going to be pumping into my beam up front. I got 3 tubes of these. Hopefully that's enough. So just stock up on that stuff, because you are going to use all that stuff, instead of having to stop and then go and get some more. So I think that's it. Just some tips on how I'm going to do all that stuff. It just took a long time to clean everything up. When you're doing every nut and bolt, it takes a while. Like I said before, that sandblast cabinet that's well worth the money spent. Well worth. It makes everything look so nice. I'll show you. Everybody knows what shock bolts look like on these cars, but I put that in the sandblaster. I believe that's a K-Max bolt. If I can focus in on that. Guess not. There it is. That was all rusty, crusty, and you can see what a nice job that does on it. I still got to do the lug nuts, sandblast them down, and lightly coat them with paint. You don't want to go heavy on it because it'll just chip. So tomorrow I'm going to put the wheels on it. I have to adjust the brakes, bleed the brakes, and just all the regular stuff. So next week I'm going to be finishing up the little odds and ends on this. And then the next week after, I'm going to start putting the headliner in this car here. And I took a whole week off from work to do that. I want a clear head. I'm going to do it while it's on the stand. That way I don't have to bend over. I can get up and probably around that rear window area is the hardest part. And I don't want to put a seam down at the bottom if I don't have to. I want to do it in one piece, see what happens. It's been about 40 years since I put a headliner in. I used to do a lot of headliners in the Volkswagens. But the early ones are a little hard. I got the West Coast Classic wool, German wool headliner for it. And see what happens. So I allotted myself a whole week for that. Hopefully won't take that long, but we'll see. It's pretty hot here in Maryland. And it seems like it's raining every day, and the humidity is off the charts. Everybody complains about Florida, but I think the whole East Coast gets kind of humid. Tomorrow night, I'm going to come in here, try and get this thing running, test run it, get some fresh fuel in that carburetor. I don't like fuel sitting in that carburetor. I'm going to go down and get some ethanol-free gas and try and get that in the carburetor before it sits for a while. So basically, it's just fluids, adjustments, a couple minor odds and ends on the pan. After I get that headliner installed, I'm dropping this back down on the pan. And then I could start on the doors, body, and finishing that up. So I'm estimating about another 6 to 8 months before I get this done. It'll probably be in the winter time, but hopefully next spring I could have this thing on the road again. So I got to put the safety wire on here. I can't find my cover. I know I have it, but problem is I got so many boxes of parts. You keep moving stuff around. You forget where you put stuff. You think you know where it is, but that's my biggest stall in this car is looking for stuff, lining everything up because there's so many parts in these restorations. And then when you get them, you have to clean them up, paint them, and then you find out you missed something, so you have to make another order at Wolfsburg West, wait for another 4 or 5 days to get it. It just takes a little while to do it. Now, one thing I realized I didn't order was the line coming from the master cylinder to the gas tank. So I had to order that today. A couple other odds and ends I needed. Seems like every order is like small orders are anywhere from $50 to $70. $100 CIP one here and there. It's just it all adds up. Restorations aren't cheap anymore. Okay, kitty pies, just another couple tips on working on the pan. Finally, after almost 3 years, got it done.